In this video, I want to talk about why each of these has a place in my compact travel setup, except kind of this one. The equipment that I take with me when I travel varies very much depending on the kind of travel I'm doing. The problem is, I tend to want to take everything. Like I really do just want to take all the stuff because I want the highest quality, I want the best. And I don't want to be like, oh no, I wish I had this, because that feels like I'm missing out. It's a fear of missing out. It's FOMO. It's FOMO. And that makes a lot of sense when you're talking about work trips. If I'm like the video up here where I was in Vienna, that makes a lot of sense. I need to take everything to get the job done. But when I'm away like this, I'm on holiday. This isn't a work trip. This shouldn't be dictated by camera equipment. The things that, the clothes that I can bring and the other stuff that I can bring and the ease of travel shouldn't be dictated by a load of camera gear. I'm staying in the Isle of Man at the moment with Katie's family, and it is literally just a week of trying to get away from the hustle and bustle of being in the city centre, of being in Manchester, to get away and get to the countryside and relax and see some family and do some nice things. Go for some nice coffee, go for some nice food, go for some walks on the beach, things like that. In the past, I've brought everything. I brought a big tripod, I brought the big drone, I brought lights, I brought everything. And this time I just decided that I couldn't do that. I wanted a really small kit because I didn't have an idea to make a video. I didn't have a plan for something that I wanted to do, something that I wanted to create. I just wanted to be able to capture some moments. Now sometimes, the urge takes you and you make a video like this, because while I was packing I realised that, well, actually there's an interesting video to be made out of this. There's something to be said about a sort of minimalist camera package, a travel setup that isn't for work. And so I put together these cameras, these small, light, inexpensive, and that's kind of a big thing as well. I don't want to have stuff that I'm like constantly worried about getting broken or lost. I don't want to bring the A7S III because it's big, expensive, but it's also the thing that I make work with, and I don't want to break that or in any way endanger it, because I need to then go back and do some shoots as soon as I get back. And if I've got to find a way to get that repaired or get it replaced, then I've really fucked myself. So what are the cameras that I brought with me? What are the ones that made the cut? What are the cheapest, the lightest, the most convenient, or the most interesting? I'll do a brief overview of what I've brought with me, but then I'll deep dive into the reasons for bringing them. There's the Sony point and shoot that I've got, that I'm recording this on. It's a great point and shoot. It's old, they're expensive new. This is the Mark IV, they're on the Mark VII right now, but it's a great camera still. It records 4K, but only for 5 minutes, but I'm managing to record videos like this, and I'm not going over the 5-minute mark. For the most part, I'm fine with 5 minutes, and if I need longer, I can shoot in HD and save some space as well. Then I've got the Insta360 Go 2, which is one of my go-tos because it's a fantastic little action camera. Then there's the Mavic Mini, and that's just the first one. It's a cheap, pretty trash drone that does passable footage, but it's really tiny, it's really light, and I'm happy enough with it. Then for a bit of novelty and a camera that I really actually don't like, it's the Insta360 One X, and that's the first one. It's not waterproof, it's a 360 camera. It does interesting things like these tiny planet videos. Then there's some other miscellaneous bits, some lightweight accessories. Yes, I've got batteries, I've got chargers, I've got things like that, but I've also got a lav mic like the one that I'm using at the moment, and this is basically so I can get consistently decent audio across cameras like this and the Insta360 Go and the drone. Basically cameras that either don't do audio or do terrible audio, or do audio that isn't going to reach me while I'm sitting on a grassy knoll. Then I've got some camera support. I've got this tripod that is kind of a travel tripod that I've kit bashed together from different things. It's actually stuck together with epoxy and it just won't die, but it's light enough that I can take it with me. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. Once it dies, I'll get something better, but it won't die yet. Then I've got the invisible selfie stick with the inbuilt tripod that goes with the Insta360 One X. And that specifically goes with that camera because it becomes invisible when you use it with that camera, but it's also really handy for just using as a selfie stick for other cameras or my phone, for example. And then I've just got this little light. It's an Aputure one. It's a bit older. It's pretty heavy for what it is, but the light output is pretty phenomenal for the size. Charges over USB-C. It's a light. It does what it needs to. So let's deep dive into this a little bit. Let's look at each one separately. Let's look at each one and why I've brought it with me, why it finds a place in a very small camera bag. Well, let's start with the main guy, the Sony RX100 Mark IV. This is a great little camera. It's not the best quality, but for the size, there kind of isn't anything better, especially in this price range, because this secondhand cost just under £250. You're gonna need some batteries with it. You're gonna need to deal with the 5-minute record limit, but that's fine. The audio options aren't great. I'm using a lav mic connected to a Tascam standalone recorder, which works really well. You just have to do that clap bit at the beginning to sync it up, which, if you've planned out your video, then you're gonna be fine. If you're not planning out the video, to be honest, the audio you get straight into the camera from the built-in microphones is passable, especially if you're close up, but that's not really this camera's strength, I don't think. You end up looking like a vlogger from sort of 2014, which, I mean, if that's your aesthetic, go for it. It's light enough that you don't really notice it. There are some things about it though. At the moment, I just have it on full auto. I have it on that super auto mode where everything's handled by the camera, and it's pretty fine. Like, you can go in, you can set the picture profiles, you can set everything manually, but I don't feel like it needs that at the moment. I'm just recording these videos. I want bulletproof as opposed to absolute best in class. Some of the things I do to mitigate some of the shortcomings with the image is, well, using a tripod for one. I mean, you can't do this kind of thing really without using a tripod, but I've got it on a tripod. I don't tend to do carrying it around vlogging type shots. It's got stabilization, but it's not great. If I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna use something like the Insta360 Go 2, because the stabilization on that is incredible and the microphones are pretty passable as well. The image quality, the actual quality of footage that you get from it can be a little bit too sharp, but I found that with an adapter for the front, which allows you to put a filter, putting on just a diffusion filter like a Tiffin, this one's just a knockoff one because I wanted it super cheap, it cuts down on that sharpness. It makes for a slightly more pleasant image. I could say cinematic, but cinematic is not what this is. The main difference between this and bringing something like a camera from the A7 series is the fact that I can carry this around with me all day. In fact, it either goes in my pocket or it goes in this little neoprene bag. This little neoprene ball bag, which I kind of clip to my trousers. It makes me look a little bit weird, but I've got my camera on me all times then. This camera is really good for that kind of B-roll where you're at the beach, you see some boats, you do a little bit of B-roll. The high frame rate stuff works really well for that. The other thing about this camera is it's a fantastic stills camera, so I can take some really nice shots. I leave it in full auto a lot of the time as well because I just want to grab shots. That's kind of street photography. Is it still street photography? It's by the beach? I'm going to say yes. But it's just really nice for that. It's got that viewfinder and the sensor on it is pretty decent. There's a question that I can hear being asked, and that is, why is this any better than just using your phone? I don't know if it is. If I'm really honest, I don't know if it is. There are a couple of things that make it feel better to me. Personally, I prefer standalone things. If something can do a job and not be not be tied to other jobs. So my phone has other jobs to do. And so having a standalone device which isn't tied to my phone, my communication device, really works for me. Now I know this phone has a wide angle camera, it has a telephoto camera, but they're not that great. The main one, the main camera on an iPhone is really, really good looking. Really, really good looking. And that quality, I don't think it matters as much in the wide angle, and I'm happy to use the wide angle for some walking about, vlogging type shots, but the telephoto, especially for video or photo, just isn't up to scratch. This camera, on the other hand, has optical, actual stuff happening that means it is a 24-70. I mean, it's a 24-70 equivalent. I don't think you'd get a shot that looked quite as good as this on the iPhone. And that's fine. That's what gives this camera a reason to be in my bag. And the same with photos. Having a dedicated camera that has a good lens, that has a good sensor, a much bigger sensor than the phone, just makes for better images. It's also got a proper flash. There's an aesthetic that goes with on-camera flash that I used to absolutely hate, but I've come back to really liking, especially since using this camera and the Fuji X100 again. You can even, if you get close enough, you can even get some really nice shallow depth of field with this camera. Behind me is pretty blurred out. I don't know why I'm looking around, because it's obviously not blurry in person. I know I said that I didn't come here with a video in mind to make, but I still wanted something that I could do some slightly more cinematic shots, some more talking head shots, and this camera is the one to do that. This is the one that works for that. This camera is the Insta360 Go 2, which I made a video on a while back, I'll link it up here, where I took it to Belfast and basically tried to use it as I thought most people who bought it would use it. And it's great, it's a fantastic, fantastic little camera. It's probably one of my favourite action cameras. It's probably one of my favourite cameras, full stop, actually. It's waterproof, it's tiny, it's really convenient. The stabilization is just incredible. The picture quality is like okay, but it's good enough. It's really great for like mounting in different places. It's magnetic, you can put it on a chest mount, on your cap. It's really easy to just throw in your pocket. It's super versatile. And this is super close to the edge. This camera earns a spot not only in my camera bag at all times, but also a lot of the time it's just in my pocket. It's better than the phone. The stabilization is the key part, I think. The ease of use and the stabilization, because having a more stable image that isn't going to make people feel sick is much better or much more important than having the best image quality, like full stop. Like nice, stable HD that's sort of not the best quality is much better than shaky ass amazing quality 4K. You get what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. Was that steady? Oh, I feel sick now, just eating. I'm guessing that Insta360 didn't think about the fact that they maybe would make cameras that weren't just 360 cameras when they, trademarked their name, because the previously mentioned Insta360 Go 2, not in fact 360 at all, kind of just 180. And this is one of their 360 cameras, which is why I can do things like this. And that novelty is why it's made its way with me on this trip, because I hate this camera. I hate the workflow of it. I think I'm going to get rid of it. I don't think it serves enough of a purpose to stay in my kit. It's great for some stuff. The behind the scenes capabilities of something like this are pretty good. In this video where I stuck it on top of the FS7 while I was recording a 2-camera interview, it was great because I can reframe afterwards. The problem is that reframing, I really don't like it. This has come with me on this trip because I'm probably going to get rid of it soon. I wanted to give it one last hurrah, and that's why this is in my bag. It kind of devalues the minimal aesthetic just a little bit. This camera is one of those cameras that's a trick and it's a gimmick, and it sort of becomes devalued once everyone kind of understands what the trick is. The fact that, well, it's just that the selfie stick, which is here, is framed out because it's two cameras. One on this side, one on this side. Yes, I am just holding a camera out on a selfie stick. Now that selfie stick, this selfie stick, it comes with the... No, it doesn't come with the Insta360. It should come with it, it doesn't. This selfie stick, the invisible selfie stick, is one of the bits of accessory, the bits of equipment that I brought with me, and not because it works with the Insta360, but because it's genuinely a great little travel tripod type thing. One of the things that attracted me to the Insta360 One X was the ability to put it somewhere and then have basically a camera that was going to follow me around. Kind of like having a cameraman, but without having to pay someone or all the unnecessary steps that go into building out some sort of rig with a gimbal or some sort of motorized pan head and some way of having it follow you around. The problem was, at this point, there was a big gust of wind and the little invisible selfie stick tripod that comes with this blew over, and one of the lenses hit the floor and smashed a big chunk out of it, which may lead to a future video where I try and replace the lens on this. But until then, this is useless. So let's move on to the drone. Now, drone footage, we know, can be gratuitous. It can be boring. Let's be honest, beautiful drone footage has got boring. People have tried to jazz it up by doing FPV and things like that, but without purpose, drone footage is just boring. No one cares about it. No one cares about your beautiful drone footage unless it's motivated, unless it has a purpose. If the purpose is to introduce a location, then that's where it becomes compelling, especially when it's only this big. Without the drone, I wouldn't have been able to show this location in this way. So I was going to camp at this cliff edge, and without having an aerial camera, there was no way to show the scale of the cliff and by the sea. So it made perfect sense to use the drone there. The other thing that's crucial is audio. I like being further away from the camera. I like setting up shots like this, where I don't have to rely on some sort of on-camera microphone. And that's where this little guy comes in. The beauty of a dedicated system like the Tascam means that I can have decent audio far away from the camera. But it also means that I'm not tethered to one camera. It means that this camera can have good audio, but so can this one, and even the camera up in the sky that doesn't even have a microphone on it can have decent audio. And as much as that means that you have to sync it in post and you have to fiddle about with it, it only takes a clap to get you most of the way there. So that's why the Tascam comes with me. Having a small light with you is not essential, but a small battery-powered light that doesn't take up a lot of room in your bag can be really handy setting up a nice shot like this. Now, this isn't ideal, but having that light, if you want to do a shot in the evening, is gonna help raise the production value a little bit. It's gonna mean that you're not relying on the room lights, at least. This light isn't perfect for this setup because, well, it's a small, hard light source, and so yes, it'd be better if there was something to soften it up, but this isn't the time to be bringing soft boxes and umbrellas and things like that. So it works, just not quite as well as a bigger setup could. A bigger setup like this, for example. Now, I couldn't travel with a setup anywhere near like this. Well, I could, I do it for work, but on a holiday where I want to enjoy myself, I can't bring this much stuff. Well, I mean, I could, I do it for work, but on a holiday where I want to have fun, there's no way I could bring all of this. basically no way that I could have fun and enjoy myself while traveling and bringing all of this. I mean, for one, some of it's hardwired into the ceiling. And this background, that's not real. Thank you for watching. I really enjoyed making this video. I love playing with bits of gear, especially stuff that maybe isn't the newest or isn't the most amazing technically, but can help you produce interesting results. I don't have a deep dive on much of this, but I do have a deep dive on this guy, which I'll link there. And well, that's it. I'll see you in the next one. That was weird.